Autumn Johnson for NCAA Digital, and I'm joined by NCAA D1 Women's Basketball Committee Chair Nina King. Nina, we just got to look at the first top 16 reveal as they stand right now, the first of 3 reveals. First, I want to know, why did you all decide to add a third reveal this season?
Yeah, well, first of all, very exciting. It's so great to be end of January here talking about NCAA Women's Basketball Championship and revealing the top 16. This is really a thrilling time. And, as much exposure and kind of transparency and candid as we can be with the general public and obviously women's basketball teams, programs, communities, to show them who we're talking about, who we're thinking. Adding a third reveal this season, it really was kind of a no-brainer. Let's get folks talking about women's basketball nice and early.
Yes, I love it. Absolutely. The more exposure, the better. But let's take a look at the number 1 seeds. You got South Carolina, Stanford, NC State, and Tennessee. What makes these 1 seeds the strongest so far?
Well, why not? No, we're looking at all 4 of them. There really was no question among the committee who the 4 number 1 seeds were. We've got some 4 outstanding programs playing really great basketball right now, with some incredible wins on their resumes. We're looking at a variety of factors, the net number being one of them, strength of schedule, their conference difficulty, wins and losses, obviously, and how they're playing. And again, like I said, no question who those number 14 or who those 4 number 1 seeds are. You've got a great program in South Carolina with only 1 loss, and really they've played a lot of top 25 net programs. They're 7-0 in the top 25. Stanford, defending national champs and has returned all but 1 player. They've got all the pieces playing outstanding basketball right now. Some losses, but early. And so, they really have proven themselves and deserve that 1, as well as NC State and Tennessee. Again, the number of top 25 and top 50 teams that these 4 teams have played and won is really significant.
Absolutely. No question about any of those 4. But let's look at the bottom now. You have Oregon, Georgia, Kansas State, numbers 14 through 16. What factored into the conversations and ultimate decision to include these teams over others like maybe a Georgia Tech or a BYU?
Sure. Well, I will say those last 4, numbers 13 through 16, is where the most amount of conversation was. There wasn't clear consensus among the 12 of us who those 4 should be, and then kind of in what order. And that's where we spent most of our time talking. In terms of who they are, Oregon, just really surging. I mean, they are playing so well right now. They're healthy. Their losses came early in the season when they were missing a lot of players due to injury. And just the basketball that they are playing at this point in the season is just really impressive, and they're certainly on an upward trajectory in our minds. And then Georgia, same thing. I mean, they've got a couple of losses, but they weren't completely healthy, and I believe that they are now playing great at this point in a tough SEC conference, and so their significant wins were really impressive. Kansas State in at number 16. This was the team that we talked about the most. I think it'll surprise a lot of people that they're in the top 16. But listen, they've got quality wins over Oregon and Baylor. They've only got 1 significant loss, a Texas Tech loss last week, which was a little bit concerning. But still, we looking at all of the criteria that we look at, Kansas State in terms of their net, their strength of schedule is 9, and who they've played in the non-conferences, they've got a good resume to this point, and in the committee's eyes, deserving of a top 16 seed.
Yeah, strong from 1 through 16, honestly. Were there any other teams that aren't on this list that could be a top 16 conversation piece?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it wasn't, we didn't stop at 16, and there were certainly other teams that folks brought up that we talked about to look at and kind of scrub, do we have the right 16 in at this point or not? Other teams that we talked about in no particular order. So I'm not ranking 17 through 24, but we also talked about Notre Dame, we talked about BYU, we talked about Georgia Tech. There were a handful of other teams that were certainly deserving of conversation at this point today in the season.
We still have tons of basketball still ahead of us. What does this mean for conference play and tournaments?
Just keep playing, keep playing well. And in terms of keep playing, we are seeing games postponed and canceled, but not as many at this point. I'm hoping we're kind of over the COVID impacts, but those are things that we're watching. And we did not change the minimum number of games required to get into the tournament. That number is still 25, but we're certainly talking about any COVID impacts and encourage teams to prioritize health and safety and wellness of the student athletes and the programs. But don't worry if you've lost a player due to COVID, or if you have to take a pause or a cancellation. We are noting those impacts and certainly taking those into account. But there's plenty of basketball still to be played. Looking forward to the rest of conference play and just kind of seeing who's beating up on who as we go down the stretch and enter February here.
And this is always, just the most fun time of the season. What are you looking forward to the rest of the way?
All of it. Looking forward to the rest of the season and just kind of seeing what happens. There were a few teams that we looked at today that we said, oh, well, they haven't played the tough part of their schedule yet, or this team really hasn't been challenged yet. And so just really looking forward to seeing now, with some challenges and opportunities for teams coming up, who really kind of takes control and maybe separates themselves from the pack. And we'll see where we are in a couple of weeks. Excited to have another reveal.
2 more to go. And then, of course, brackets all on the way. So much excitement going on. Thank you so much, Nina. Always great breaking down the top 16 with you.
Thanks, Autumn. Great to see you.